Hello, rock stars, and welcome to String and Story. My name is Holly and Knight, and it is my job to guide you to quilt with confidence. I am so excited tonight to talk with you about 3 myths about quilting with rulers. I love quilting with rulers because I find it to be an amazing way to add more geometric fills to all of my quilts. And I love being able to do that with a ruler rather than a walking foot because I can switch back and forth between that and the free motion quilting that I love so easily. However, I find that a lot of folks encounter some roadblocks when it comes time to learn ruler quilting. There are some myths that we've been told that we sometimes believe, and it prevents us from pursuing a skill we're interested in learning. So tonight, we're here to be myth busters. I'm excited to share those myths with you and then bust them and offer some alternative beliefs instead. And then at the end of our time together, I am so excited to share about Ruler Quilting Academy, my online course that's going to guide you step by step from the very first time you quilt with rulers all the way through much more intermediate motifs. All right. If you are here with me live or on the replay, do say hi in the chat. I would love to greet you. I can see that there's a whole bunch of y'all here and you're continuing to jump on. And I'm going to chit chat for a sec and give y'all a chance to join and say good evening. Hello, Terry. Hello, Lynn. It is so great to see y'all. It is, I just love summer. I love that it's 8 o'clock and still this bright. This makes me so happy. Yay. Fantastic. Say hi if you are here in the chat. If you already have questions about quilting with rulers, go ahead and put those in the chat too. I may not get to them until we get to that part of our evening. But if you've got that burning question that it's taking you energy to hold it in your brain, go ahead and put that in the chat. That's one of the big things. Anytime I'm live like this is the time to ask questions. All right, all of them. All questions are welcome, and we'll talk a little bit more about that before we start properly. Hello, Bonnie in Staten Island, Irene in Brampton, Gated Girl 85, Janice in Ontario, Lori MRQ Treasurer in Hilton Head, Valerie also in Ontario, Nancy, Green Magic, Suzette, Margaret, Robin, Betsy. Hey, Betsy, how are you? Betsy's right down the road from me. This is fantastic. Bonnie says, I don't know enough to ask questions. This is completely new to me. Bonnie, I am so excited for you. Oh my gosh. You are going to love this evening. It's going to answer a lot of things that, like you said, haven't even quite formed as questions yet. And if you have any questions as we go along, do not hesitate to ask. All right. Mary, Patty, Cindy, I'm so excited for you to be in Ruler Quilting Academy. Nancy down in up in Gum Spring, Virginia. Giselle also in Ontario. Shout out to Ontario. Y'all are repping tonight. I love it. Pat in Pittsburgh. Fantastic. Oh my goodness, so wonderful. All right, y'all, I am going to jump on in. If you are just now joining and have not yet had a chance to say hi, go ahead and do so in the chat. I will greet you as I see those messages come through. But I talk a mile a minute, so we might as well just get on going with it, okay? All right, so as I mentioned, welcome to 3 myths about quilting with rulers. My name is Holly Ann Knight of String and Story. I am here to guide you specifically this evening to feel confident starting your ruler quilting journey. In my experience as an educator, our brains really love to freak out when it comes to learning new things. The tricky thing about the human brain is that we don't know the difference between something that is life-threatening and something that is just unfamiliar. Those things get coded the same when it hits our nervous system. So sometimes when there is something that, we're curious about learning, like quilting with rulers, the moment we hit a friction point, the moment we hit a bump in the road and we're not sure where to get an answer, or we're afraid we should already know an answer and we're afraid of feeling silly or foolish or overwhelmed, we just shut down. And this can deprive us of some really cool opportunities like learning that new skill. So today I'm going to address 3 of the myths that I think most commonly cause those friction points for folks who are investigating quilting with rulers. Hopefully bust those myths, make you feel more confident about getting started quilting with rulers, knowing what's involved, knowing how to get started, and knowing where to get those answers as you continue on this journey so that you can become a confident ruler quilting rock star. Okay? Now, if you're new around here, I would like to take a moment to introduce myself properly. My name is Holly Ann Knight, and I have been teaching since 2017, and I've watched thousands of quilters just like y'all grow in their confidence to finish their own quilts through my blog, workshops, and digital courses. This is my cutie little family. We currently live in Duluth, Georgia. I'm married to the hubster. His actual name is John, but there's a lot of Johns in the world, hence hubster. He's the one in the navy in the front of this photo. And then we have two boys named Jem and Ian. And we live, like I said, in Duluth with our dog Havana, who is behind me on the chair. I don't know if y'all can see her. She's back there. And our two cats, Moby and Felicia, who may or may not make an appearance tonight. If I am not live with y'all doing quilting via the interwebs or over in the String and Story shop, then I'm probably hanging out on the town green or I'm out on a running trail around here training for the Chicago Marathon. Our oldest son, Jem, who's the one in the very back of the photo, he and John are both type 1 diabetics. So I'm running the Chicago Marathon this fall, fundraising for Breakthrough T1D, which is the leading organization for research into type 1 diabetes. Like I mentioned, we do have a brick and mortar shop, String and Story on Main. We've been proud recipients of the Best of Gwinnett Award for craft and hobby shops over the last 3 years. Inside String and Story on Main, we have a lot of motive fabrics, especially Ruby Star Society and Gingiber. We have the full line of Paintbrush Studio solids, Aurifil thread, Burnett sewing machines. We offer classes, events, etc. And all of the things that we sell in store are available online as well. So if you've been looking for your local online quilt shop, we might just be that for you. Now, a little bit of housekeeping as we dive actually into these 3 myths and as we bust them. Turn off all distractions, right? Just enjoy being here with your quilty friends. There's a bunch of y'all who may or may not be sort of neighbors to one another. So connect in the chat, have a good time asking questions. And please remember that as we've already talked about a little bit, this is designed for those of you who have fooled around with ruler quilting before, you've tried it, you've experimented, but maybe not made the progress that you've wanted. This is also for those of you who are like, what is this thing? I have no idea what she means when she says ruler quilting, right? So wherever you are in kind of the early stages of a quilting with rulers journey, you are in the right place and you can ask all the questions, okay? There is no question that is too entry level. I know that sometimes it can be hard to speak up and be like, I don't know this thing and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to know this thing. If you don't know, you're not supposed to know yet, and that's why I'm here to help, all right? Now, there is a workbook for this evening, the Confident Ruler Quilting Workbook. You can take your phone and open the phone app and scan this QR code. You can also go to stringandstory.com/confident ruler quilting workbook. All right, it's a free download. You'll put in your email address. We'll send it directly to your inbox. And a lot of the stuff that I'm going to address this evening is captured in writing there. So if you are very much someone who likes to review and mull things over later, if you are a visual learner that wants to sit and read through things a little bit more, or you just want to be able to sit back and relax and not have to take 1,000,001 notes over the next half hour or so, this workbook is the solution for you. Okay. I am going to grab that URL for y'all. It's going to take me a second because I clicked into a different thing in my other tab. I'm going to grab that URL for y'all and I'll paste it in the chat as well. So give me just a second. Dun, 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 dun. If you pre-registered for tonight, hopefully this delivered to you via email. It was supposed to. Full disclosure, we have an amazing human at Team Rockstar named Clara, and Clara is my online business manager. That's basically fancy entrepreneur speak for she's in charge of all the tech and all the magical tech things that have to happen behind the scenes in all of the online programming that we do. So, when you put your email address in the box and then it magically goes to space and then sends you a thing, and then you get an invite later to come to a thing related to that thing, or you sign up for the thing and then you're supposed to get a workbook, all of those things. I know I'm saying that word a lot, whatever. All of the internet digital space magic is what Clara does. Clara's on maternity leave. So if you register for this and you're like, I definitely didn't get that workbook, that's probably my fault because I'm trying to do space magic that I don't normally do. So hence the link. You can drop your email in and it will send directly to your inbox. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. The most important thing that I want you to know this evening is if you are here and you already, especially if you already have a concept of what it means to quilt with rulers, maybe you've seen ruler work done before, you really want to be able to do that on your quilts, you can and will be a ruler quilting rock star. You absolutely can learn this skill and create all of those amazing motifs that you've seen on Pinterest and Instagram and Facebook and in your quilt guild and at QuiltCon, etc. There's just some steps of practicing in the middle, and that's what I'm here for. So let's bust some myths. Before we bust those myths, what is a quilting ruler? So if you're here and you're like, I don't even know what this is. I need some foundational knowledge. Here's your little background piece. A quilting ruler is a thick ruler that's designed for creating shapes and motifs on your quilt as you're performing the quilting step. Right now, quilting is the word that we use to mean the whole process of making a quilt, right? Quilting is also specifically the point at which we have our quilt top, our batting, our backing, and we're stitching those layers together, that quilt sandwich, in order to form a quilt. A quilting ruler is a way to make specific designs during that final quilting step. It is different than a cutting ruler, right? A cutting ruler is thin like this. You can see it's just about 1/8 of an inch thick. And this is something that we would line up and we would use our rotary cutter to cut out fabric. Let me see if I physically have a quilting ruler sitting here. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't because home studio problems. It appears that we do not at the moment. A quilting ruler is about twice as thick. It's 1/4 of an inch thick, and it's designed to bump up against a round metal foot that goes on your sewing machine. If you, your kids, your grandkids had a spirograph, right? And the two gears would go together and you hold one piece still and you put the pin in the other and you rotate around the edge of the spirograph. Similar concept, right? You hold the quilting ruler steady as you move along that foot. All right. You can often buy rulers based on high shank or low shank, depending on the type of machine you have and the length of that shank that the foot attaches to. If you're unsure, you can always check with your dealer or look it up online. But if you're in doubt, I always recommend opting for high shank rulers. That thicker ruler is going to be a little bit safer. And the point of the ruler bumping up against the foot is to prevent the ruler from ending up underneath your quilting needle, right? Because you don't want that needle coming down in the plastic, shattering it. Bad things happen, right? So it's a way to safely guide yourself to make certain lines. For most folks, the first quilting motif that they're going to do with a ruler is going to be something like stitch in the ditch or straight line quilting. So you can see here I'm working with a straight ruler to just make simple back and forth lines. But I can do that with this ruler foot and go seamlessly from making those straight lines into doing a free motion quilting motif. Being able to go back and forth is part of the secret sauce of this technique, okay? Like I said, using rulers is a really cool way to finish your quilts because it allows you to quilt all types of geometric shapes on your quilts. So this design here, this is one of my Quilting Rockstar panels. It's a digital rendering, right? And then I have digitally drawn all different types of ruler quilting motifs onto this panel. And these are some of the motifs that I teach inside Ruler Quilting Academy. And it creates some very cool effects. This kind of precision and crisp lines is next to impossible for most people with free motion. And honestly, it's not that easy with a walking foot either, right? Ruler quilting is a whole next level of precision in our quilting game. Hello, Carol. Hello, Faye. Thanks for joining us, y'all. So, the myths. Myth number 1, quilting with rulers is only for long arm quilters. False. Now, using a ruler is practically a necessity for long armers. So if you are quilting on a frame, if you are moving the machine instead of moving the quilt, you don't really have any other options for doing things like straight lines or stitching in the ditch other than using a ruler, right? Because just simply hand guiding it is going to be pretty wobbly and you can't put a walking foot on a long arm. So long armers tend to step into the world of ruler quilting faster or sooner in their journey than folks who are strictly working on the domestic because we have some workarounds when we work on the domestic, right? But I'm a firm believer that quilters on all types of machines benefit from learning how to quilt with rulers. All right. For a long time, I didn't fully understand why would I choose a ruler instead of a walking foot, right? This is one of my domestic machines. It has an even feed foot built in, as does my B77, which is my primary machine now. Why would I opt for rulers when I can literally just go with that foot that's right there? And it's for exactly this reason that I've been mentioning of being able to switch seamlessly back and forth between geometric ruler designs, straight lines, stitch in the ditch, and more, and free motion quilting. And that opens up a whole world of customization and ease that I didn't have before. It's an absolute game changer to be able to reduce the number of thread breaks, to reduce the turning of the quilt. It makes for a much less exhausting experience as a quilter. Any questions about quilting with a domestic machine using rulers and how this is not just for long arm quilters? I tend to get blazing and I just go fast ahead. So I'm trying to remember to slow down and make sure that I answer any questions we encounter along the way. Havana, please don't make that sound. I don't know why Havana's barking, but it was very loud. I don't know if y'all could hear it. All right. Next myth. Feel free to ask questions if you're still typing. Keep typing, ask that question. Myth number 2. Quilting. Oh, about the foot. Janice, great question. Okay, so you can just barely see the foot here. Let me see if I have one. I don't think I have one here at the moment. I don't, of course not. That would be entirely too convenient. So a ruler quilting foot is a metal circle. All right. It is what, if you've ever seen a foot on a long arm, it looks a lot like that. Small metal circle, usually about 1/4 of an inch across, right? And with tall sides. So it's different than a regular free motion quilting foot that is going to be flatter and is often fully plastic. Okay. It's going to be a metal tall sided foot that goes up against that ruler. You can usually Google this for your machine to find out where you can get one. Yeah. If you happen to be on a brunette, we carry them. Gated Girl says, really appreciate you mentioning the walking foot because that in the guide is all I've used before. Yes, and that is where most of us start, right? Of all of our types of quilting, right? When I first started quilting, that was the only way I knew to finish a quilt. When I discovered the concept of free motion quilting, like my mind was blown. I'm like, you can doodle with a sewing machine, right? And then the thought of being able to not just doodle with a sewing machine, right? So picture it like a pencil, right? I can doodle with a pencil, but that I can take a ruler and make lines and do all of this different stuff like on one quilt back to back. Incredible. So much magic. Great questions, y'all. All right. Myth number 2, quilting with rulers is an easy way to avoid learning free motion quilting. Now, I hear this a lot. This is also false. Okay. I've had more than one quilter comment to me, like, I'm just going to buy a bunch of rulers and I'm never going to have to learn how to free motion because I'm not an artist, but I can follow a stencil. I am a firm believer that these skills go together and that if you want to be finishing your own quilts on your home machine or on your long arm, which I think you should do because you're an amazing rock star and you should get to finish your quilts, all the way through if that's something you're interested in, then I think these skills go together. And I think learning both is really powerful. Okay. Pushing a quilt and ruler underneath your domestic is a lot of work. As is pushing the quilt under your domestic just a free motion, right? So these are both skills that are going to take development, but they have their own individual qualities. Like I've mentioned, the precision of the ruler work and the freeformness of the free motion quilting and how they can go together. Margaret says, I have a set of westerly rulers and a ruler foot. My problem is while ruler quilting, the ruler foot keeps coming loose. Ooh, sounds like that screw needs to be tightened down big time, Margaret. Yeah, it sounds like it's not getting quite tightened all the way on the shank. Yeah. Faye says, what would you say is the best ruler to start ruler quilting and what's the cost? Great question, Faye. So I'll address this a little bit more when we start talking about Ruler Quilting Academy, but a straight edge, a gentle curve, and some sort of half circle are the 3 shapes that I always recommend. Price is going to vary a little bit depending on exactly what you get. We have a kit for Ruler Quilting Academy, but that's one of the things that I put a lot of thought into when curating the motifs that I teach in RQA is not having to buy 850 rulers, right? Because there's so many rulers out in the world, but how can you get started and get a lot of bang for your buck with a really curated collection? Great question. Even if you prefer to work with rulers, I think learning the basics of free motion quilting is going to benefit everyone. And I'm also a firm believer that you do not need to be an artist in order to free motion quilt. So you are going to be thinking of this more like a skill we practice than a talent that we're born with. All right. Myth number 3, quilting with rulers is only for super experienced quilters. False. Stitch in the ditch is a key skill for quilting on both domestic and long arm quilting machines. It's key for emphasizing a specific area of the quilt, moving from section to section on the quilt, or as an entire quilting plan, depending on the scale of the quilt. So here on my long arm right now, you can see Star Island. This is a quilt that the scale is pretty good, that if you really just wanted to stitch in the ditch all the way around those elements, it would look really awesome. But if I'm doing that on the frame, I'm absolutely going to do it with a ruler in order to get nice, straight, precise lines. I recommend mastering Stitch in the Ditch ASAP, no matter what machine you're working on, because that's really going to set you free to be able to secure your quilt, emphasize, and move from one section to another. You can certainly use rulers to create much more complex motifs like the incredible feathers of Beth Ann Namish, but every confident quilting ruler rock star started with the basic skill of being able to stitch in the ditch. Just like free motion quilting, I recommend that you start building this toolbox sooner rather than later. Okay. So I'm a big fan of if you are a newish quilter and you're interested in finishing your own quilts, jump in and learn all the things while you're new at everything. That was one of the kind of random gifts that my quilting journey gave me that I encourage others along as well. Is there were things that I didn't know I was supposed to be nervous about. So I just jumped in and gave it a try. If you've been quilting for a long time and you've historically been nervous about learning this skill, I just want you to know that you're in exactly the right place here. You know what? Havana, stop. Sorry, I had to fuss at the dog. You're in the right place to be able to say, you know what? In the past, I was nervous about this, but now I really want to give it a go. All right. Excellent. Action cures fear. The best way to become familiar with a new skill is to start doing the thing. Several months back, as I was training for one of my spring half marathons, one of my running coaches described fail as first attempt in learning, FAIL, right? I mentioned this offhand to one of my sons uh, because Ian has taken up running and was struggling with some technique that we were practicing together. Months went by, right? I don't remember what it was that I was doing last week. I was having a hard time with something. And Ian just looks at me and he goes, Mommy, because I was like, well, maybe I'm just going to fail at this one. He goes, Mommy, that just means first attempt in learning, right? And the sooner that you can have your first attempts in learning, the sooner that action is going to cure your fear. All right. Cindy says, as a previous graduate from Holly's FMQA, you can do it. I just bought a used Bernina Q20 and she gave me 20 rulers. So I need to learn this too. Oh my gosh, Cindy, you are going to have so much fun. You're going to have so much fun. What an exciting thing to get rulers with the purchase of that machine. And I'm so excited that you get to jump in with me. All right. Connie, don't worry about being late. There'll be a replay available as soon as I wrap up. So you can go back and catch all the myths that we just busted and be ready to rock and roll. So if you're here and you're going, okay, even though I'm not on a long arm, even though I'm a newish quilter, even though I'm still nervous about, free motion quilting and all the things, I really do want to finish my own quilts. I want to know how to do this with rulers. I now know that this can, in fact, be the right fit for me, in spite of these myths that I believed prior to now. How do you take the next step to learn how to finish your own quilts, to add that element of stitch in the ditch precision or geometric precision, or being able to go back and forth between making one type of motif and making free motion quilting, right? How do we do that? I would love to invite you to become a confident ruler quilting rock star inside of Ruler Quilting Academy. Now, Ruler Quilting Academy is an online course and it's a proven method to build on some of these early lessons from tonight, some of this early knowledge of what ruler quilting is and why it's meaningful in our quilting journeys, in 8 weeks of online video lessons, during which I'm going to teach you about 24 different ruler quilting motifs. The key here is I'm going to take you step by step from what does that ruler foot look like? What rulers do I need? How do I set up my tension? How do I stitch in the ditch? All the way through much more complex motifs, including beautiful border designs and more. I don't know if any of y'all follow me on Instagram, but on Instagram last week, I had the privilege of finishing up a custom quilt for a customer and got to do this really amazing like church window motif in the outside border. And that was done with rulers. And I'm going to teach you how to do that inside Ruler Quilting Academy. So what are some rock stars saying about RQA? Elizabeth says, I love your videos. You explain things clearly. You're inspiring, and I love that you sometimes have a bobble, but you keep going because that means I can too. Your Q&A sessions are fun, and your enthusiasm is contagious. Now, I hope that y'all are looking at these on a little bit bigger screen because these pictures with some of these stories from our rock stars are their final projects. So in all of our online classes, we have a graduation project. And inside of these, you can see a sampling of all the skills that these rock stars learned during RQA. And it's so fun to get to show off their work. Mary says, I really enjoyed RQA and felt like I learned a lot. I took your introduction to rulers back in 2021, and RQA took my skills to a new level. So if you are someone who has played around with rulers before, maybe you've done a little bit of straight line quilting, you've done a little stitch in the ditch, but you're not sure how to take that next step, Ruler Quilting Academy is exactly the fit for you. So what's included in RQA? So RQA is lifetime access to to 6 video units full of tips, tricks, and motifs. I'm going to teach you all the skills you need for successful ruler quilting from start to finish. Stitch in the ditch to complex clamshell borders and beyond. This toolbox of ruler quilting motifs is going to set you up for success. So we have 6 pre-recorded video units. We have live video Q&As, so you can ask questions and get the help that you need in near real time. Now, notice a couple of important things. One, I said lifetime access, and that's because I know that we all have life happening all the time. And while I'm going to give you a schedule if you enroll in RQA and say, hey, here's when these lessons are releasing, here's how we're going to work through the class, you have lifetime access because I know that on week 4, some random thing might happen that you don't get to do your work when you would like to do it, and you need to come back to those video lessons later, right? So you can also work through at your own pace. You can come back to those lessons again and again to review, etc. These live video Q&As, again, I know we have lots of life going on, so we always collect questions ahead of time. So if you can't tune in live with me, you can ask your question the day before, and then I'll answer it when I'm live and you can catch the replay. Or if you can tune in live like you are right now, you can ask questions in the chat just like you've been doing tonight, and I can go back and forth with you and help you troubleshoot and understand and make progress on the class in near real time. All right? It also includes a full color workbook with doodle pages, quick guides, and more. So it includes a beautiful full color library of all the motifs that we're learning inside the class. So you've got that quick reference so you can go back to it time and time again. And ongoing updates. Right now, this is a course that I filmed myself with my iPhone. Those of you who have been around since the early days of FMQA, you remember that version of FMQA. At some point, this course is going to be professionally filmed. And those of you who are already enrolled, you're going to get that update totally for free. Also, you'll get any updates anytime I add extra things into the class, right? So we've added an extra little video unit for those of you who are on long arms so that you can see the difference between working on a domestic machine and working on a long arm. Right now, I have the Burnett B08 that is in the shop, and I'm starting to do some filming on that so you can see what it looks like to do these motifs on a different type of machine. All right. So all of this, those 6 video units, live video Q&As, full color workbook, ongoing updates, and lifetime access is available for a one-time tuition payment of $247 or 3 payments of $85. Enrollment is open until July 20th, and new student orientation begins on the 22nd. Okay, I'm going to drop that link in the chat for you because I know that that makes it a lot easier. Let's look a little bit closer at some of the benefits of Ruler Quilting Academy. Ruler Quilting Academy allows you to learn how to quilt with rulers from the privacy and comfort of your own home. You don't have to lug your machine anywhere. Heck, you can be in your sweatpants or your jammies if you want to be. You don't have to worry about somebody looking over your shoulder and making some snarky comment about your work, right? It gives me the opportunity to come to you virtually and meet you in the space where you're most comfortable and at home with your quilting. It strategically teaches you how to use a core collection of rulers rather than asking you to buy the approximately 1 trillion that are available on the market. So this was a question that we talked a little bit about earlier that Faye was asking about. So I definitely recommend that you have a straight edge ruler, a gentle curve, and then some sort of half circle. So for us with the kit that we currently offer, that's going to be the Amanda Murphy Every Angle ruler, the Amanda Murphy Every Curves ruler, and the optional part of the kit is the Amanda Murphy Every Circle ruler. That one is a 5 ruler set. So every angle is 1 ruler, every curve is 3 rulers, every circle is 5 rulers. So that one's a little bit pricier. If you're worried about keeping that cost down, you can always just purchase the first 2 and add those circles if you're like, wow, I really love those motifs and I want to be able to do those easily without having to jerry rig it all. Okay. Our kit, if you're like 1 of each, please, our kit for the course is about $200. Okay. That includes some panels. I think that includes a spool of thread and it includes the rulers. All right. Great questions. Ruler Quilting Academy is available when you are, regardless of geography or time zone, with on-demand pre-recorded video lessons. So this course is pre-recorded, so that if you are on the other side of the world from me, I know tonight we have a lot of Canada in the house. Last time I gave this masterclass, we had some folks in Australia in the house. If we are on literally opposite time schedules, you can still work through these lessons at the time that works best for you. If you get going, you get interrupted, you can hit pause and come back and watch it again. If you try something, it's not really working the way you want it to, you can step away and come back and watch it again. It offers you ongoing access to the instructor so you never feel alone or stuck and can get near real-time help during live streamed video Q&A sessions. I think this is really, really important because as wonderful as the flexibility of online learning is, one of the challenges of online learning can be getting the help that you need. So we have these live Q&As so that you can make sure you get your questions answered and feel supported every step of the way. Suzette asked in the chat, can I buy just the panel? I have a bunch of rulers. Yes, absolutely you can. Ruler Quilting Academy also connects you with other rock stars in training around the world so you can help and encourage each other. In more than one of my class cohorts, we have had folks discover that they live remarkably close to one another and in fact should be real life friends. So it's not just about being able to ask me questions, about being able to connect with your fellow students, being able to be around virtually other quilters who are working on the same skill you are and cheer for each other along the way. That sense of community is really important to success in these classes. So, what else are rock stars saying? Megan says, I loved the permission to play. Great video shows how to do each motif, but with no firm requirement on how to use it in the final project. I really thought this would be difficult, but once I got going, it wasn't that hard. Practice is fun. You give us the confidence to get past our fears and get started. I really enjoyed this class, possibly even more than the free motion one. Gail says, I loved learning how to use the rulers to make different shapes for backgrounds, fillers, and borders. I love Holly Ann's realness in her teaching and her positive, encouraging attitude. And Beverly says, I love Holly Ann's enthusiasm and positivity, as well as her energy. I love being able to go back to each lesson to watch and practice a design. That's something I hear from rock stars a lot, right? Because you go through, if you, let's say you go through and you're like, I am going to finish Ruler Quilting Academy in the 8-week schedule that Holly Ann gives me, okay? You go through, you work on these 24 or so motifs over 8 weeks. And then some time goes by, right? You work on other projects. Maybe you take Free Motion Quilting Academy. Maybe you're busy piecing for a while and you come back and you're like, man, I really loved that church window motif, but I don't really remember how to do it. You can just pull up those videos and watch them right then and there. To review, Ruler Quilting Academy includes lifetime access to 6 video units, live video Q&As, and the replay vault. Full color workbook with all of the pictures of all the motifs that we're doing, all my tips and tricks, all our quick guides, etc., and ongoing updates to the class itself. It's available now until July 20th. So enrollment for this cohort goes till the 20th for one tuition payment of $247 or 3 payments of $85. For those of you who have been really thinking about, I want to be able to finish my own quilts, maybe you've been looking ahead to Free Motion Quilting Academy. This is a perfect time to get started, jump into RQA, and then also jump into FMQA as we head into early fall. And you can build these toolboxes of skills side by side and be an entire, whole, confident quilting rock star, finishing your own quilts with both techniques before you know it. All right. Y'all, I would love to see you inside Ruler Quilting Academy. Thank you so much for joining me this evening as we talked about 3 myths about quilting with rulers and hopefully inspired you to realize all that is possible by using rulers on your quilts in order to stitch in the ditch, move from one section to another, add incredible geometric designs, and be able to switch back and forth between those more geometric shapes and the beautiful organic shapes of free motion quilting. Quilting with rulers really sets you free to add a totally different element to your quilts, and I would love to be the one to guide you to use them with confidence. Thanks again for your time, y'all. Huzzah! If you have any questions, do please ask them in the chat. You can enroll in Ruler Quilting Academy today at stringandstory.com/RQ Academy. Dun, 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 dun. Any questions? I love being able to answer your questions when we're live. Yes, Suzette, you can just buy the panel. Cindy, I'm so glad you love fail. I thought that was great. Betsy, yay, I'm going to see you in RQA. That makes me so happy. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. Did that answer your question, Faye, about rulers, by the way? I know we touched on it in kind of two different parts. Um, but I want to make sure that you feel equipped with that. By the way, if you enroll in RQA, you'll then be prompted about the kit. You'll get an email and all that good stuff. So you don't need to feel overwhelmed about like, now where do I go? How do I find that? I'll make sure you have all the info you need. All right. Nancy says, speaking of tips and tricks, any tips or tricks for moving rulers from one section to another? I always seem to have a bobble where I shift. Ooh, Nancy, this is a great question, and something that we talk about a lot in RQA. The biggest challenge with ruler quilting is you absolutely have to come to a full stop before you move the ruler. Otherwise, you absolutely will have that little bobble. And just like with free motion quilting, I always recommend taking a stitch in place before you start to move the quilt again. And that's one of the things that comes with practice, but also comes with kind of knowing the rhythm of your machine. Um, because different machines take that first stitch faster than others coming from a full stop. So being able to kind of hold that kinetic energy of I'm about to start moving, but I'm going to let that needle take a stitch first before I actually begin. Practice is gonna be a huge part of that, um, but also just almost overthinking the kinetics of it until you find your rhythm, and then you'll kinda find your sweet spot with it so that you don't have as many bobbles. Great question. Y'all, thank you so much for your time. I hope that I see all of you inside Ruler Quilting Academy. I'm really excited for this cohort. We haven't done RQA in a few months, and it's fun to see all these shapes come together on your quilts and see your confidence grow as you become a whole Ruler Quilting rock star. I'll see y'all in class. Bye for now.